Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Exactly right. And away we go with Purple Access. Judd, Zulgad, Chip Scoggins, Ross Brendel. Plenty to talk about. Vikings off to a fantastic start, and we will touch on that as soon as I tell you about the Vikings Classic Scratch-Off game, the official scratch game of the Vikings. You see, $5, Chip Scoggins, you can win $100,000, $100,000, or second chance prizes, include season tickets or an away game trip, and that, I'm going to tell you right now, is officially exciting. The Minnesota Lottery, just say I'm in, must be 18 or older to play, plus this is a very nice looking souvenir to keep. All right. I think the last time we talked, because we're doing this show bi-weekly, sir, was before the Giants game. And, I don't think that we were down on this team, but we certainly didn't know what to expect. Given what you have seen, they beat the Giants, who aren't good. So I said, well, prove it. Beat the Niners. They beat the Niners. What is your takeaway 2 weeks into, an 18-week season and 17-game year?
Should I revise my 7-10 prediction?
I think I had 8. I think I landed on 8.
Well, I think everybody said going in, we think the defense is going to be better. I didn't think they would be this much better, at least through 2 games. And we'll preface everything by saying small sample size, but it always to me was like what version of Sam Darnold you're going to get, and we're getting a really good version of Sam Darnold through 2 games, and he's The interception in week 1, that wasn't his fault. He got hit. That's not a bad decision. The ones last week against San Francisco, that was, I think, a poor decision or poor throw, however you want to do it. But he has really avoided the mistake leading to a mistake, leading to another mistake where he can't get out of it. And Kevin O'Connell talked about it yesterday about the snowball effect. He's bounced back, and Judd, like when he threw that pick, when they had a chance to go up 17-0 or 13-0, and San Francisco came back to score, and now we're saying, man, this game could have been, one way, it's going to go the other. For him to come back and just lead them right down the field and get a field goal there, I think that was just, really impressive, important thing for him in that moment. So, I think based on 2 games, probably underestimated a couple of areas. I didn't think their defense would be this good. I thought they'd be good. I didn't think they'd be this good, and I didn't know what we were going to see from Darnold. He's been really good.
Yeah, on the defense, I think the prognosticators who put them at 6.5 wins, which I thought was like really, really low, I don't think they understood that the defense, to your point, was going to be improved. Now, this much, I don't know, probably not, but it was going to be like they've got the personnel now in place. On Darnold, I thought the real definitive drive of that entire game was the one that ended with the Reichert field goal to give them a 9-point lead. I mean, to me, the only miscue, in my opinion, was telling Ty Chandler that if Munt is open, you can pass. I'm like, Kevin, what are you thinking there? But besides that, I loved that drive. If I'm not mistaken, Darnold, 3 third-down completions, meat and potato running drive. Chandler looked fantastic. I thought that drive was a very defining, like when you talk about what I perceive now, and it's seen as a derogatory term, and it's not. But when you talk about now, quarterback, manage the game, right? Yeah. That was like that at its highest. And I've always thought that it's BS to be like, well, he manages the game. That's what you're supposed to do. That was managing the game brilliantly, and it ate a ton of clock.
And no Jefferson, no Aaron Jones, no Jordan Addison, no Hawkinson.
Yeah, great.
I mean, you had your 4 best skill guys unavailable to you, and we say manage the game. I think I look at it as manage the situation because I don't care what quarterback you have. At some point, you're going to have to make plays. And to me, we all will look at the 97-yard bomb, and that was impressive. I mean, he threw it 55 yards in the air, and he's backed up. To me, without a doubt, his most impressive throw was the 3rd and 8 to Jalen Naylor up the seam, because on that drive you're talking about. Because one, there's 3 guys in the vicinity, and both I talked to Naylor and Darnold asked about him afterwards, and they're saying ordinarily you're throwing it topside to that guy and letting him, you're leading him, but split second, he saw the way he was being covered, and so he threw it back shoulder, which is not where it's supposed to be, but that's the only place that Naylor could get it, and Naylor adjusted and got it. I mean, you think about how important that it's 3rd and 8. If they don't get that, they're only leading by 6, and now you're going to have San Francisco with all their weapons with a chance to come back and win it. I mean, 14-play drive, almost 7 minutes, 3 third-down conversions, some really, important throws. That to me is like no matter what quarterback stage or however you want to define him, you got to make throws like that in a game to win, and he did. And so that drive, I think. Well, here's the thing, Judd. We've never really doubted his physical talent, right? I mean, the way he throws the ball. I don't think anybody has disputed that. It's just, can you handle pressure and can you not make the critical mistakes that, the turnovers? And we saw Sunday, and in first game too, but I thought more so Sunday, just how physically gifted he is as a thrower.
Well, he's got that huge arm, and like I asked him, I said, as far as the deep ball goes, because I'm not a Darnold, aficionado. Like I haven't seen him a ton. I don't watch him a ton. I know he failed, but I didn't watch him a ton. And I asked him about the deep ball because it dates to training camp. And he said, yeah, I work hard on that, blah, blah, blah. I've done lots of work. And I said, okay, yeah, I know that. But I said, your arm, like you didn't just get a cannon for an arm before 2024. Like you had the arm talent. Why is it now working? And like, what did you work on? And he talked about the mechanics of keeping his head still and his eye on the target. He said, previously, my inclination is to like try to watch it as quick as possible. And he said, you can't do that. So like, it's stuff like that. And Chip, the thing about him that's so impressive, or I guess the potential here, and I don't think he's going to be here, just to be very clear, past this year. But I think the thing that's that's if you're hopeful is he's only 27. Like he failed at a young age. And until now, I should say this. Until Kyle Shanahan, I don't think he ever had a structure, an infrastructure that could actually help lift him.
Do you think he learned that just through being a veteran, or is that something that KO talked about or something Shanahan talked about? Do you get that sense from him?
No, he said that he knew, and he had said successful veteran quarterbacks do that. He basically said, I just struggled to. So like it was a habit that had to be broken. I'm guessing a lot of the fixes started in practice in San Fran. Wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, because Shanahan's he's such an offensive guy. But I thought it was interesting. We're taping this on Thursday, Wednesday at O'Connell's press conference. And I think it was to your question about Darnold and why and some of the things that's working. And didn't you think that O'Connell kind of went out of his way to say, let's not forget, this is Sam Darnold doing this. It's almost like O'Connell does not want this to turn into O'Connell is building or making a quarterback or doing what he said. Let's not forget, first and foremost, I don't want anybody to lose sight of this is Sam Darnold doing this. So I thought that it was almost like it was intentional that he came out to say this. Yeah.
Because post game, after the San Fran win, he went out of his way to say we need to put the past in the past. And it's like, it's funny because it's like, Kevin, you can't. Like Sam is defined by his past. We can't just ignore that. But I think he is doing I think O'Connell is going out of his way. And you know what? Darnold deserves credit too. Like this is not just, he's propped up by the play calling and coach, but I think Kevin is being very conscious of, don't give me too much credit. Now he fully knows he's going to get a ton.
Yeah.
So it's not like, don't give me credit. And then we're all like, you're right, we shouldn't give you credit. But I think it's a really interesting thing. And it's 2 games in. Who knows?
Yeah, it's 2. Yeah.
But it's very encouraging to see so far.
Yep.
On the 2 games in, boys, I think what's most impressive about this game, actually, let me go back, is you take on the Giants, Sam Darnold plays well, you win. But I think every one of us said, it's better to win that game than to lose it. You needed to win it. But what does that really mean? And you fast forward another week, you take on a good 49ers team that threw some things at Sam Darnold that, one, he probably didn't see against the Giants. Also, maybe was slightly aware of what the 49ers would throw at him from having spent a year there. But all that aside, I think what makes Sunday so impressive, and if you're looking for signs, is this real? Is it sustainable with Sam Darnold? We know there'll be bumps in the road. We know there'll be losses. But what stands out is every time he faced adversity in that game, he overcame it, even when it wasn't his adversity. Think about what happened with the Aaron Jones fumble. The Vikings are walking in to go up and easily end up basically running the 49ers out of the building. Well, okay, that doesn't happen. The Niners then come back down and score, and then it's preceded or following, you get the 3rd and 8 throw to Naylor. That's impressive stuff to see there. And when you see that, you go, okay, maybe this isn't just a hot start. Maybe there's some sustainability here. And I do think spot on about Kevin O'Connell. I think he's trying to give Sam Darnold as much props and just put him in the best place possible to continue to succeed and feel good about himself, because he maybe hasn't had that in the past. But just everything they had to overcome in that Niners game, in a game that, guys, they flat out dominated the game. But the score didn't really show that. And if you would have lost that game, I think we'd be having an entirely different conversation right now. So just being able to step up multiple times in that game is huge. And now we're sitting here talking about, Chip, your comment about, do I need to readjust the win total? I think we all kind of do, because I thought they'd win 8 or 9 games. Well, now it's possible. Maybe they still will win 8 or 9 games. Maybe this spirals out of control and they win 6. But I think we're all sitting here going, yeah, they're probably better than we think. And that's largely because of what Darnold's doing.
Yeah, I mean, every time that game started to pivot, he did something to make it pivot back, right? You know, he has the turnover. They come down and cut it to 10-7. He leads the drive right back. And you know, I thought a kind of a veteran move that if you saw on that 18-yard scramble right before the field goal, he knew he had a timeout. If you look at his head, he's looking up at the clock as he's running.
Yeah, he saw it
to know how much time he needed to get down and slide. So he came back there after, you know, the Jones fumbles, they scored, cut it to 6. Now all of a sudden, okay, you're thinking, oh boy, if they don't have a drive here, all their guys are out, Jefferson's out, Jones is in the medical tent. If they don't have a drive here, San Francisco is going to come back. They got the momentum because they had just had a long drive, and the Vikings defense was tired probably. He comes back with that 14-play drive, 7-minute drive, and they get points out of it. And so, yeah, he and this is only week 2. And to me, I think we're seeing O'Connell trust him because, Judd, he allowed him to throw a play that took a long time with his feet in the end zone, a bomb.
Yep.
You're not going to do that if you don't trust Sam Darnold to make a good decision.
Well, and everybody, too. The quarterback, the running back to block,
your
to chip,
offensive line.
line. I mean, that's as ballsy a call because, I mean, you're backed up. A lot can go wrong. And the perfection of the pass, I thought, was the story of the play. But that was, and it's one where, as far as I could tell, everyone on the field in purple contributed.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he had enough protection. He, threw a beautiful ball. Naylor's running down there to get a block. I mean, but just the fact that it just goes to show that maybe O'Connell says, I don't care what happened before, and I don't care about his turnover history and all that. That's not going to implicate or not. That's not going to dictate how I call a game. I'm trusting him with what I've done what he's done since he's been with me. So to call that play in that situation, I think just shows that O'Connell says, you know what, I trust the guy.
Darnold would have to lose his trust because he definitely did get a clean slate, which is great. But, I think there are things that could certainly take place in the coming weeks that would cause them to scale back. Beyond Sam, let's talk about this, Chipper. When is the last time that you saw the Vikings go into a game and philosophically play the game with that type of physicality that matched the Niners? Because if I had takeaways, I mean, there's the Jefferson catch, Darnold's play. We can go through a lot of. I think that impressed me the most because I perceived this team as, I don't know if weak is fair, but I didn't perceive them as physical. And they beat San Francisco doing what San Francisco does best. And San Francisco basically said, kudos to you guys.
Yeah, I think back as I was watching it because I thought they were very physical. And I was thinking back to that 2019 playoff game in San Francisco where it was just a mismatch of, as big a mismatch along the lines and then physicality as you're going to see. And that was a lot of the conversation in the post-game locker room, how they just got beat up by that San Francisco team, particularly the Vikings offensive line. Cousins had no time. He was, running around. So conversely, when you look at what it was Sunday, I thought they were as physical or more physical.
More
than,
more at
which
times.
is, and how many teams are going to come out of the game and say that, because it's thinking when the 49ers were here last year, was it last year at the joint practices?
Yeah. No.
Or 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
2 years back, and then the Vikings beat them in a Monday night game, primetime
That's
game
right,
here
yeah.
last year at US Bank Stadium.
Yeah, but it was 2 years ago, and they came here and being out there for those days.
Yep.
I remember thinking, my God, this team is big. They just look strong.
And they beat you up.
And they're just physical. I mean, the way they are. And I do wonder if that kind of stuck with O'Connell's. Like, that's what they have to get to. Because you look at the way, they ran the ball, Judd. I mean, look at the way they, with Jones and Ty Chandler. I mean, they ran the ball effectively.
And Darnold.
And yeah.
Quarterback can get some yards too.
If they get that kind of running game, this offense is, when they're healthy, I mean, you start thinking when you get Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson, and if you can run the ball that way, man, it's going to be a pretty good offense.
And it's a good thing too, because what I like about what O'Connell has done as well, Chip, is year one, I think his perception of his role was to be the anti-Zim, right? Zim was a hard-ass blood. And so Kevin sort of came in as the players' friends, and they had a training camp that was Club Med. Last year, the training camp might have been a little tougher, but not much. And I understand the training staff and O'Connell want to do everything that they can during that time of the summer to avoid injury. But it's pretty clear that they looked, after the season got done and said, first part of the year, we got pushed around, couldn't hang on to the football, still a bit of a problem. But I think that the thing that's most heartening about this is there was a conscious decision made to say, we have to change our philosophy. And this philosophy gives you a chance to win, I think, far more than saying, we got Justin Jefferson in a defensive scheme that might confuse you. And Brian Flores, he wants to beat you up. Like that defense now wants to beat you up, Chip.
Well, think about the 3 training camps that he's presided over. How much different did this one look than the first 2? In terms of,
enormous.
I mean, if you go and watch him regularly, you just saw the difference that they were.
I mean, they're in pants.
They were setting a tone for what? Yeah, they were setting a tone, right? And it's not about beating the heck out of each other all day and all that, But it is a mentality and aggressiveness, and I think O'Connell's done it. I think you see his defense, Flores' defense. That defense, one, I think, is very fast, but I think they have some guys that will just, bring some aggression to it. And
it's fast, tough, and smart. That's what that's what impresses me, because they're so smart.
I wanted to get into this as with O'Connell yesterday. I didn't have time for a question, but clearly, like Flores has an idea of the kind of the player he wants to fit his scheme. But it was I was thinking about this. I was watching, man. I mean, they're just moving all over and making checks, and guys coming in, guys coming out, or coming up to the line, bailing out. All the just all the different moving. It just kind of looks like But you have to have great communication. But it seems like you better be smart to play in this defense and understand.
100%.
So I gotta imagine that's a big part of their evaluation when they're looking, whether draft or free agency, about can this guy handle all that's going to be asked of him.
Yeah, so I talked to Steph Gilmore in the locker room after practice, and because he got here in late August, and he's he's traveling at cornerback, so he's playing both sides, and 2019 League Defensive Player of the Year. He's certainly not a shutdown guy now, but again, back to your point about smarts. So I said, like, what's the thought process here? Like, are you because against the Niners, I noticed that he would travel with wide receivers at times, but not all the time. And he would still travel. And I said, like, what's that about? And he said, I do follow the receiver sometimes, but it's also based on what the scheme of the play is. So it's not just he's the top receiver, Ayuk, I got to be with him, or Debo.
Yeah.
It's actually a philosophical thing. Think about that. So this guy got here in shape, but late August, basically no practice time. And he's one of the linchpins of what they're doing from a mad scientist. I think Metellus is brilliant as far as the football player goes. Harrison
Yeah.
Smith, Bynum, Harrison Phillips, Blake Cashman, your guy. I had no clue, and
No.
Flores didn't either until your buddy Mike Sherrills told him about
I
it.
know. What a great! I didn't know that anecdote, and kudos to Mike Sherrills, who
Cheryl should have called you and told you
is
that.
near. I know.
Like you
that
wrote
is
the
not
definitive Cheryl story. Where's your scoop?
that is. I know that is not Mike's nature to draw attention to himself, but what an amazing coach and even better person. But I didn't realize watching that game. Cashman was walking through the locker room afterwards after the game, and I just talked to him a second and said, "I wish I could see how much you ran in that game." Like how many miles? Because he was running sideline. I didn't realize he was that fast, Judd.
Yeah.
There was a play where he chased a screen all the way across the field, and I mean he was motoring, and I just didn't realize he had that kind of speed. And so he's obviously a very smart player. Van Ginkel's obviously a disruptor. I mean, he's just been. They have so many different pieces that you can. I don't say interchangeable parts, but they can just move them around in different packages that they're using. And, I think you probably saw the video of Purdy afterwards going up to Flores on the field and saying just like, your scheme is crazy,
Yep.
There's not too many, we laud Shanahan for his, brilliance on offense, and he is. That was a pretty good chess match against two guys who were at the peak of their game, right, in terms of scheme and play calling.
Absolutely. And it frustrated, I mean, Shanahan and Purdy to frustrate them. And Purdy did not look good. Like he never looked comfortable. He did not look. And if you go back on film then and watch the looks and the different looks that Flores presents before, and this is where I think the players have to be very smart. He literally puts them in positions where it's like, okay, this is what they're doing defensively. Quarterback ascertains it, calls the play. And then they go into something completely different. Like this is...
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
I felt like last year, Brian Flores was trying to make do as best as he could with the personnel. I feel like this year, he's got the personnel. And so I would guess that the shift in blitz rates, which I think are way down because they can get pressure with 4 now, I would guess that there's been some very big changes in what the Vikings are doing defensively, because now he's not trying to survive. He's actually trying to thrive.
But it is. And I mean, just think about, a guy like Pat Jones.
I know.
I mean, how many sacks does he have? But maybe Flores looked at his skill set and looked at, his length, side, whatever, and his physical attributes and said, that guy will really thrive in my system. And I, as I sit here and talk about this, I did I sat down with Harrison Smith last year on the first day of training camp, and he'd come back, and part of the reason we were talking about he wanted to play for Flores because he had heard his reputation and all that, and he said, we have some guys. I don't want to say any names, but we have some guys that are really going to thrive in this scheme. He said, I don't want to put too much pressure on, but I got some guys in my mind. I think Metellus obviously was one of them.
Right.
But it's. I'm sure there are just certain guys that might not fit a certain system or might whatever that
like Scene, athlete, but probably lacked the. I mean, Josh Metellus is a 6th round pick, dude.
Yeah, and he plays 100 different positions for him. So it's fun. I like watching their defense pre-snap because you're seeing guys tap their head and doing this, and they're recognizing something, or maybe it's a disguise. Hell, I don't know. But they're doing all these things to try to confuse it, and then you see guys bail out, or you see them coming. I gotta imagine in that if you're the offense or your quarterback, you're trying to figure out, okay, where are these guys coming from? Because there's not conventional what they're doing.
No, did you know going back to your time covering him that Cashman was this smart?
No, I didn't.
I mean, I watched him, but I never really appreciated this. I mean, he was good, but I didn't really appreciate him that much.
I always, I watched him in college, obviously, a lot, and then I thought he was a really good tackler. I thought he was aggressive. I guess I didn't recall his speed. It just stood out to me Sunday because I saw him a couple plays just like really chase him down across the field. I'm like, man, he can fly. I mean, this guy can really run. Like when the Gophers, I thought, okay, this guy's just a really hard-nosed tackler, and he was always around the ball, always made a bunch of tackles. So I thought I knew that part of him, and he did that with Houston last year too. I think he had a ton of tackles, but I guess I didn't realize just the overall speed that he had.
Green Dot guy
Perhaps.
too. But
Yeah.
like to give him that's impressive.
Yes.
Again, he steps in, and the complexities of what I'm sure he's being asked to do as far as checks, as far as calling, like if he sees certain things, he has the flexibility to change the look that Flores called. Like this is not simple. Hey, 3-4, do this. This is a huge complexity. I guess that's what intrigued me the most. Like, who are the linchpins to what they're doing from 15 seconds down when that communication mechanism shuts off in Blake Cashman's helmet?
Well, if you do watch him, and I don't, we're just guessing because we don't know like what's going on. But you see Harrison Smith doing a lot of stuff. You see Cam Bynum making a lot of gestures.
Yep.
I don't know if that's their way of communicating. I'm like, hey, look here, you get, what they're calling. But I think Flores puts a lot of responsibility on his safeties in terms of recognizing, disguising, making calls. So it's not. I don't think it's just one guy. I think it's multiple guys that are doing it. And I would, I'm sure all those veterans, Gilmore, I bet they all have kind of some hand in that, the communication part of it.
How nice is it to see that this team actually appears to have a semblance of a screen game? Now, the Jones fumble overshadowed that, and it's unfortunate.
That's just a great play. Don't you think that's just a great play?
And Jones has no history of fumbling problems, so I'm just going to chalk it up to a great play. Jones also did a press conference yesterday and said he didn't lock his wrist correctly.
Okay.
So he didn't lock the wrist and protect the ball. And if you go back and look at it, Warner at first looks like he is not going to try to punch the ball out and then comes in at the last second. And by the way, watching Warner live, one of the biggest treats. There are certain guys on TV, it's like, but guys like that, I don't know what it is, watching that dude live, sideline to sideline. I mean, he's a safety playing linebacker. He's a cheat code defensively.
There are not many defensive guys in this league, but he might be the best. I mean, he is so good. And watching him live, when you see all the things he does for that defense and all the plays he makes, man, he is unreal. But I like that one. I just chalked it up to, you know what?
I agree.
Superstar made a great play on you.
But if you have a screen game now, so
I know.
the run,
Ty Chandler,
the screen. Oh, and that's one too. Ty Chandler, and O'Connell referenced this on Wednesday at his presser. That dude has grown up. Like, look at what he can do now. And I'm not saying he's perfect, but I mean, just as far as I'll tell you, he saved O'Connell's bacon by not throwing that ball on the halfback option. Now, we all would have preferred he didn't go out of bounds, but I would much prefer that he stops the clock than panics. And we've seen guys panic. We've seen them panic and throw that pass to Munt. I really think that Chandler has taken a step. I also think this team unfairly didn't trust him. Like, at some point in time last year, you probably should have just said, Alexander Madison's the backup.
I know.
But now, I mean, when I watch that kid play, the speed, more maturity, he's doing a lot of things. I think he's going to be their top back next year. I'm not sure Jones is back, but I think that Ty Chandler now looks like he belongs in that role.
Well, it's you and I were talking about this yesterday after the press conference. The fact that in that situation with the game online, he trusted Ty Chandler to possibly throw a pass. I mean, think about that, how far they've come in terms of earning his trust. But I do think it's probably just, a guy who's been in the league, another year, and he's more mature. He kind of understands what it takes. I do think probably having Aaron Jones there with him, and O'Connell said that those two are always together. I got to imagine, because I think Aaron Jones is just a pro's pro.
He seems like,
I think he's one of those guys that, if I was a running back in that room, I would probably, be right with him all the time, because I just want to learn and soak it up, because I think he's that good. But that's a pretty good. You don't think one thing it struck me too, like Aaron Jones is fast. We see that.
Yep.
He's had a couple hard runs where it's like 2nd and 1, and he had to get it for 3rd and 1, and he had to get a first down. He gets the hard yards too.
He's strong.
So it's not. Yeah,
he's small. That's what amazed me. I had no idea that. Like, I don't know why. But when he played for the Packers, Chip, I always thought he was sort of bulky. He's not bulky.
I did
he's
too.
Skinny.
No.
But he's slithery. He's strong and slithery. You realize that's a talent when you can find just that seam to crack through, and he sort of got that.
Mm-hmm. 100%. but he'll get tough yards too. But he's I think that combination with him and Chandler coming in, and so it's not like one guy's getting 25 carries. I mean, you can get, 15 and 10 out of those two. I mean, I think you're going to be able to get the best out of both of them by not overworking either one of them. And I think O'Connell's trusting his run game, in a way that we haven't seen his first 2 years. He knows he has some to lean on now.
He has to too. Like that's like this offense now does not work if you don't. Like if you just say, Sam Darnold, you just go, you become Kirk. You just pass. But, I think part of this too, beyond Sam for sure, is, again, going back to the mentality that this team has. You can't be tough and not run. Like it can't be like, we're a really tough team and we pass a ton. Like to play the style. I mean, the Niners, it's funny because guys like O'Connell and McVay and Shanahan are all, they're offensive geniuses and gurus and blah, blah, blah. So you think quarterbacks and passing, right? The reality is, if you don't have the want to beat teams up front, I don't know if O'Connell and Kwesi have just gained a new appreciation or what. But I mean, this is, I think, one reason why I'm excited about this team is, they won 13 games, right, in 2022. But I always wanted to see, what's your vision? Like that 22 team was run back from Zims last year. Last year was sort of run back, some new things, but I didn't think there was a new identity. So my point was, I want you to start to rebuild because I want to see your identity. And rebuild in this league does not mean death. And Chipper, I think that we are now starting to see an identity. My only question now, and it's in the past, is was this the goal from the start? Or did you gain an appreciation because you did get your butt kicked physically because of things that happened?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely seeing, I think, the identity on defense. And, you really hope Flores, I mean, you want him to get another head coaching job if that's what he aspires to be. But, man, you just feel like that defense is in really good hands because he's going to, put a terrific defense out there with the personnel that fits. Offensively, I think we're seeing the identity. I think you're right when you talk about the 49ers running the ball. They're physical. Look at the way they run the ball. I mean, you think of Shanahan, like all these, this intricate offense. Yeah, but they still run the ball. I mean, they're a physical running
look at what they did on Sunday.
I know. I mean, their backup is, a heck of a runner. So
right.
I do think it required getting guys he trusts, O'Connell trusts, in that run game. And we're seeing that. And it'll be, I know this is just a 1-year deal with Darnold, but I think you're seeing the overall philosophy of what he wants his offense to look like. And I'm excited to see when this team is healthy, when you get Hawkinson back and Addison back and they're complete, what this thing looks like. Because I think it could be a pretty, if you have the balance with that running game, it could be pretty hard to defend.
The only thing I'll say is this. When you play this style, I don't know that they're ever going to be healthy. So, that's the one thing. I mean, Deebo Samuel is always hurt. I don't think he's a wimp. I think he's always hurt because of how he plays the game. And so, the one thing is I would caution against us thinking that for the remainder of the season, this team is ever going to be healthy completely. Now we could talk about you can't lose this guy, you can't lose that guy. But I mean, I think you're going to have someone on the O-line go down at some point in time. I think you're probably going to have a few key defenders go down at times because I mean there is a price to pay for this style. But that being said, I would far prefer to see this style than to get by with let's rest and let's do this and let's do that. It's almost like the Vikings have evolved from a Twins-like philosophy of R&R to, no, you really can't do that in football.
Yeah, and that's where it's coming on. And I do think their depth is better this year than last year. It's probably, it's never as good as you want it to be, but I think it's
better.
A deeper team for sure than what we've seen last 2 years.
Expectations for Sunday. Can they keep it going against a good Texans team that has a long injury report itself? And I think it's beatable, but they are also going to play a really physical game. Yeah,
I think it's going to be another kind of, just physical game where both teams brings. I It's weird to think a 3-game winning streak, and but I think they win, Judd.
Hard to bet against them.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against them, and even though Houston has a lot to like, and boy, talk about a big boy matchup. The offensive tackles of Darisaw and O'Neal against Hunter and Will Anderson, that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. But I picked the Vikings to win. I think it's going to be another close game. I think it could be a field goal game, like a 24-21. But I would probably pick them to win.
Last thing for you, Daniil and Diggs.
Yeah.
What's the reception?
From
the crowd, of course.
Tribute video?
They might get videos.
They might. Yeah.
I think Daniil will.
I think that it'll be more favorable for Daniil. I think Diggs because of the way it ended.
I think Diggs gets booed.
I do too.
He left as such a jackass.
Yeah, it didn't leave on a positive note. Daniil, I think.
Daniil deserves.
There's no hard feelings. Yeah,
he deserves his flowers.
If you look at what he did, and he was, a really great player here, and even though the contract stuff was always kind of hanging out there, but
personally, the Vikings fault they ripped him off on his second contract.
I know. So I think it'll be more positive towards Daniil than Diggs.
I think Diggs gets booed, and I have no problem. Phil and Dex think that he won't, and that he'll be cheered. But I think that the way he left, and we've booed a lot of guys. We've
booed Tyus Jones in basketball.
Yeah, if you turn on us at all, if we perceive that, we get pissed off. Like
that's right.
I recall, I think it was 2008 or so. Torrey Hunter got a raucous cheer. The Angels opened at the Metrodome, and he got a big cheer. But I mean, Perzinski, helped the Twins with one of the greatest trades of all time, and we hated him. And so like Diggs, you could say, well, they got the Jefferson pick. Yeah, that's true. I don't think fans will care. I think they'll boo Diggs, cheer Daniil, and then I don't think that they'll clap for Chris Boyd either. So I think Chris Boyd, although he's hurt, so he probably won't play. All right, Chip Scoggins, great stuff.
All right, boys.
Purple Access, Judd, Chip, and Roscoe. We'll see you later.